people don't know what they're getting into as far as creating a spec and having to own it and actually be accountable and responsible for it. And so I kind of thought of you, and I was like, this might be an interesting conversation. So that's where my head's at.
Speaking of people who don't know what they're doing, right? Like who
Yeah,
don't know
yes,
what they're getting
exactly.
into.
Yes. I was like, that is Fran. I should
That is
definitely reach
right.
out.
He doesn't know what he's getting into, but he seems excited. So, so yeah, why not?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, if you're game, I mean it's already recording, but I let's start with the basics, I guess. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, I am, yeah, my name is Fran Mendez, as you know, obviously. But in the last 10 years, I've been working on an API specification called AsyncAPI. And nowadays, I'm pretty much what some people call a creator, a builder. I don't know. I don't even know how to define this. So I like to build things as usual, like as before. But now I'm not, let's say, strictly into APIs anymore. I'm building whatever I feel is making me happy. And yeah, and so now I'm building Commune. It's it's a newsletter. It's a social network of newsletters, if you want to. It's like a Substack competitor or a Substack alternative. So not competitor, definitely not yet. But a Substack alternative, a headless Substack alternative. So yeah, and yeah, pretty much that. I live in Spain, south of Spain in Badajoz, and yeah,
Nice.
I guess
Well,
that's it.
thank you for that. We'll get to commune and building, and I think in a little bit. Let's go back in time.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
you when we first met, you just created a specification for event-driven APIs and called Async API. Can you talk a little bit about why you did that?
Because I was young and pretty. No, actually, is just that I had a need. Let's say I was building an event-driven architecture. Back in time, I was at working at API Changelog, what then became Hitch. And we were building an event-driven architecture internally, um, based on RabbitMQ as a broker. And our product was pretty much about OpenAPI. So we were very well versed on OpenAPI and and working with specs for APIs, right? But I found out that even though it was very similar, the whole process of crafting a new service for RabbitMQ for consuming and publishing events and so on, it was very similar to calling APIs and building APIs and so on. There was nothing like that. And I was repeating myself all the time, build repeating the same structure for the code. Uh, I will say like 80% of the code was always the same. Just a little bit of business logic was changing in different services, but most of the code was always the same, which is like the boilerplate code for connecting to the broker, consuming from specific topic, um, processing the message, publishing a message, and all this stuff. So except the business part logic, everything was the same all the time. So yeah, every time I was building a new service, I was like again repeating myself all the time. And I found myself copy pasting a lot, documenting manually. Um, there was no way to check if the messages we were receiving were well structured or not. We were using JavaScript, so there were no types. So yeah, we didn't have even that kind of type safety. So yeah, and then I thought like, okay, let's just clone OpenAPI. Well, first of all, I actually started using OpenAPI for events. So I just assume that get means subscribe, post, publish, and yeah, and forget some other things. So I hacked it. But yeah, like for documentation, it was working very decently, but for the rest of the things, it was not working at all. So I decided to clone OpenAPI and started reading it from top to bottom a few times and changing the things that didn't make sense to me for events. And yeah, and that's how it came to be.
Yeah, it's from my perspective, it was a success. It's right there alongside OpenAPI. A
Mm,
few years behind, I think, in growth and adoption. But
mm,
uh it bundled with OpenAPI, I think, and JSON schema, it kind of represents the core of how we define our APIs is very successful. But
yeah.
also, I would say from a community, and I've showcased this several times on Postman's blog, on my blog, but I think that from a community building perspective, aside from the spec, it was, I would say, even more successful than OpenAPI in that regards, as far as building community and doing something. From where you stand today, is AsyncAPI a success?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is so, I would say it's so overwhelming the success that yeah, it is already like too much to me. Like it's after 10 years is actually I decided to quit this year. To leave the organization, to let's say to disconnect from AsyncAPI a little bit. Perhaps I'll be back in the future, who knows? But yeah, like completely disconnect, even though I'm in the governance board right now. But yeah, quitting it because it's grown so much that yeah, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming the amount of things that it involves, let's say, and it's not about the spec anymore or the code anymore, right? It's about the community management, the whole human thing around building communities and paperwork and relationships and travels and so on. So it's yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of accountability. And it's also hard. I mean, I watched you struggle for years as the spec in the community became bigger than you, and I think your original vision, and you wrestle with that. That was not easy. I've seen various ways with that in the Open API community and JSON schema community. But I'm seeing another wave. I would say we're in a kind of renaissance of specifications, spec-driven development, many things, ways we could use to describe it. I'm reviewing probably one or two a week, new specs that are AI or coding or interface or application. And it kind of spurred me to start this conversation with you. Do you have any advice for people who go, "Hey, I have a need and I want to create a spec." Can you give them any advice or maybe warnings, about what's to come?
I don't know if it's an advice, but I will say a recommendation is um, always try to drive the use cases or the changes or the things that you add to the spec if you start implementing it or writing it. Start from a use case, right? So from a real use case, and if it's possible, uh, from a use case that's been repeated in the industry, right? Like that many people are a problem, an issue, a need that many people are having, not just because it's possible and because it's possible it's cool, right? Um, so I guess here applies the same things as with product development. That it's the same thing. Like we've heard during years, product owners, product managers saying that, yeah, like before adding a feature to a product, we should actually research and see if someone is going to use it and it's going to need it if it's going to make an impact in the product and the business. Same here. Um, Before you start the spec, before you add a new feature or a new capability to the spec and so on, figure out if it's something that someone is going to need, and always default to um, not having things, let's say, or having less powerful things, because it's easier to be adding over time than to be removing over time, right? Removing features is a pain. Changing them completely is a pain because you added them too early. So yeah, that
Yeah,
was
the,
actually, I would say that was my biggest mistake, I would say.
yeah, yeah. You're eager. You want to move fast. You want to
Yeah.
make a lot of people happy. You want to kind of respond to the moment, but it's going to change over time. And can you talk a little bit about the expectations that get put on you from, eventually from the community or from other companies or from having to pay the bills and survive? Can you give any recommendations what people have coming?
Also, it's about expectations. I would say always expect that people are like 10 years behind you in regards of specs and this kind of technologies. Sure, there are some people who are probably uh let's say more advanced than you in the whole journey. But in general, since you're working on a very specific niche in a very specific thing, which is a spec or an API spec, most people will be like even wondering why this is even needed, how does it even work, and all these kind of questions. So, and once you answer these questions, they still have to find, let's say, the need to use it. So probably they won't find it. Uh, so assume that you will be like, yeah, assuming that that the future is going this direction, you are how you said that, like you are 10 years up front, how you
Yeah,
say that?
yeah.
So not so yeah. And not everyone will understand what you're talking about, basically. And your needs and your problems, the problems that you have, are usually not the problems that people are having. People are having completely different set of problems. You are too far from them in that regards because you are only working on that, right? So that's normal. That's why it happens. And financially, that's another thing. Uh, I recently learned, well, it's going to be a year now. I learned that AsyncAPI's value, net worth, I would say, would be like 34 million for $34 million. I don't have $34 million. Let me start
Sure.
there.
Wink, wink. Sure. You've got it under your bed somewhere in a
Oh, sorry, too
suitcase or
much
something.
money. I cannot hold it. Too much money. Uh, so yeah, I don't have that money. I don't even have one. Just to clarify. So I'm far from one actually. So what I'm saying yeah, so probably is that, well, let me reframe it. So I was actually very lucky in my journey with this KPI. I don't know how I did it, or if I did it at all, or it happened to me. But I was lucky enough to be working for companies who were betting on the project on AsyncAPI and putting a lot of money on the table to hire people. Like when we were at Postman working together, we were at some point we were 12 people in my team, on the AsyncAPI team. So that's a lot of money. Uh, that's not the usual thing, right? That's very rare. and they were asking nothing in return. So I was not selling the spec to them or the project to them. So that's very, very rare. Um, in general, what I'm finding is that people are struggling to even make a salary, to even make a half a salary, I will say. Um, so yeah. So expect that unless you are touching on a very specific thing that people want to invest their money on, or you're very good at selling, um, then you're not gonna make a lot of money. So, but but probably this will be creating a lot of value for companies. They just won't give you the money, not easily, right? And again, I'm not, in my case, it's actually I will say a strange case. I was able to actually drive a lot of money towards AsyncAPI, thanks to you as well. So so yeah, but that's very rare. And yeah, I would say that, yeah, that financially speaking is very hard to make an impact, to make money, even if you're making an impact. And I'm not sure if it's because of the open source model or not, honestly. Because yeah, some people will say like for instance with this KPI, its value is, yeah, it's calculated to be $34 million. Cool, but is it $34 million because I made it open?
Yeah.
Right? Or it's because it's value. Like if I chose to make it closed and sell it to MuleSoft when I had the opportunity, and or or other companies, um, will it be so valuable, or would have happened that people will have created another option, another alternative, open alternative, right? Um, you never know. So I chose, because of my ideals of how I think the world should be, I chose to make it open, independently of how much money this will give me or not give me. Uh, so so yeah, it's really difficult to say. I'm just saying that it's not necessarily linked. Like if you make it close, probably you make a lot of shitload of money, right? But people, uh, even if it doesn't become a standard, probably. But then we're talking about products and startups and selling an idea and selling a tool or selling whatever. But you're selling a company basically. It's a different game altogether. So it has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Commercial open source, or just
yeah,
open source and then commercial open source and then standards and tooling.
yeah,
That intersection is really interesting for people who listen to this. I'm looking for other companies, large companies or medium or small that are willing to give money to the to async API, to open API, to JSON schema, to all of
yeah,
them. They need money. Step up, please, if you're using it, if you're dependent on it. But then also get involved in the communities, get involved in the ecosystems. But I'm always looking to for new companies who'll do that. Investors as well. I'm interested in investors who want to invest in commercial open source technology because of everything I think you described is there's actually a lot of money and a lot of value generated in there. It's a it's not an easy space, but it's moving forward and it's evolving and changing. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to make money. There's a lot of opportunity to make change. Um, but I'm moving on from async API here, I would say, into kind of wider tech. Um, I'm 15 years into API Evangelist. I think I have three pretty high profile burnouts on my schedule, and I for some dumbass reason I keep coming back. But here I am, and
Yeah.
going for my fourth. We'll see if we can make it even bigger and more high profile this time. But I've long seen tech and this startups and enterprises, the intersection of startups and enterprises doing business or acquiring, as well as commercial open source and what we just described is my playing field and where I exist and live as API evangelist and now building as Navtico is I see it in two ways to kind of tie it back to historically. So Charlie Chaplin, a movie Modern Times where he's working on the machine in the big factory and he goes to leave and he's still moving like he's working, like I feel like that's me, that's you, that's us in this kind of capitalist machine working and then a second one is a probably lesser known pop culture wise is um the player piano, which is a Kurt Vonnegut book, but from the same kind of time period, 1940s, World War II. But they have these big, massive warehouses where everything exists. And that's kind of how I see this space that we just discussed in my head. And for me, this big warehouse, this big machine we live in becomes uh, there's not enough oxygen for me to fucking breathe in this space, and I have to like run for the exit and go and run out the door and cough up all the toxic fumes I've been in breathing in for the last year. And then I have to get a little bit of air, and then I can come back in a little bit and do what I do because I still feel it's very important for me to be in the space and pointing things out and going, hey, we need to take care of each other. Hey, there's humans here. But try to live within the machine or live within the warehouse as
Mhm.
long as I can until I need to breathe. And I feel like there's a lot of people I see who have been in the space a long time and uh, can live within that machine and they live there permanently and they're perfectly happy and they're fine with it. Um, a lot of people I know run for the doors and never come back, and I feel like you kind of ran for the doors recently again, and you need to get a little air. And so can you talk about commune and kind of what your vision is now as far as communes?
Sure. So actually, I think this is a very good, um, a very good way to describe that. Like the warehouse, and we're running out through the doors and so on to find some fresh air. I just want to add that I have the feeling that I'm running to the door to get some fresh air and start smoking a cigarette, right? So so instead of getting fresh air, you start getting more smoke in your lungs, right? So
Yeah.
instead of getting fresh air, just get a different smoke, basically, a different one, right? Um, so that's commune actually to me. I don't know. I like what you said. Like here I am. I've been burned out 3 times, and here I am for the fourth, right? So I would love to know. I would love to think that I'm not here for the fourth. I'm not here for the next one. I would love to think that this time is going to be different. We'll see. But yeah. So commune. I'm not going to pitch the product. I think that's really not important to me, honestly. Um, so for me, commune is a way to escape that warehouse. But I'm not trying to find fresh air. I'm trying to find myself, basically. Again, back to me. So for many years I've been doing what I was supposed to do, what the avatar of Fran Mendez was supposed to do. But when I created this in KPI, I wasn't an API expert or a spec expert or a messaging or even an event-driven architecture expert at all, right? It was actually my first time with event-driven architectures. Well, second time. So I was not really well versed on that. I I like to build things. I always like to build things. In fact, right before building SyncAPI, I was building a an IDE that worked on the browser. Sounds familiar? Many startups actually got sold there. Code, and now you have GitHub code spaces and so on, right? So yeah, so I was building that back in time, back before AsyncAPI, but I had zero experience on how to sell products on or how to start a company and so on, right? And how to market things. So yeah, and funnily enough, I wasn't trying to make AsyncAPI a business or a success. I was just making a tool for myself. So I was just sharing openly. So commune to me is again this with a different touch. Like I'm building it. I'm building a product. I'm back to building, but now with a little bit more knowledge on how to market things, on how to create products, on how to market them, on how to sell them if needed. So way more knowledge than 10 years ago. And and enjoy the process of doing it. Actually, I keep telling myself like if I ever find the opportunity, if I make Commune grow and find the opportunity to sell it, I'll sell it and build something else. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not here. I'm trying to detach myself from this sentiment of I'm here to save the space, this tech space and so on. No, no, because I will be saving people who don't want to be saved, basically. And I felt that with Async API and the API space and so on. I was there trying to make something open, something for everyone, but pardon the words, people don't give a fuck, right? So I was basically trying to do things for others, but nobody asked me to do it. Um, so yeah, that's something that I'm working myself. I'm working on myself. Like not being that savior, right? And instead just enjoy things. So if, like I said, like I'm not saying that I'm gonna sell Commune at the first at the first opportunity, right? Like of course I'm not gonna undersell it if I see there's potential, right? But I'm not here for the long run saying I'm gonna grow this into a big company, uh lots of millions of dollars, and no, I don't care. As long as it pays my salary, that's already a success. I don't care if that means it's a small network of people. I don't care. If it ever gets sold, cool. I'll stay in the company who's acquiring my product if I feel that I want to be there. If I don't feel that I want to be there, I'll quit. And that's it. So yeah, that is actually commune to me. Like it's a commune is the result of letting me be myself, basically. Just allowing me to build whatever the fuck I want to build, not what I'm expected to build, not what people expect me to build. Actually, in last summer, I was struggling with this. That I want to build commune, but yeah, but that's gonna be confusing. It's gonna confuse people because yeah, I am the AsyncAPI guy. How am I supposed to be building this? It has nothing to do with APIs. Um, and why not build? Why not finishing the book, creating courses on event-driven architectures, doing webinars, perhaps some other business around event-driven architectures and so on. And it kept coming back until very recently, actually. So, um, but at some point in summer, something clicked on me and said, no, no, I'm just gonna build. I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do, not what people expect me to do. Um, and yeah, so here I am,
Good.
going for the next, going for the next burnout.
I like it. I like how you're approaching the business, the thing, similar to how I'm approaching Navtico. And I want to build. I want to I want to find some market fit in the space, some need, solve some need. I'm not looking to solve massive problems, save anybody. Because I learned like you, there's putting yourself out there to save the world in a world where no one asked it, and a bunch of the people don't fucking want it. Like you know, uh, it's part of the extractive culture of technology that is extractive. And it takes little bits from you incrementally, transactionally, and eventually
Mm.
you have nothing left to like be who you are. And so I think being you and doing you as a consecutive series of startups is the best way I think you can like counteract capitalism in that way and do that. I think, and that's where I'm at. Like, will Navtico be a success? Sure. Yes, I'm gonna tell you yes, I'm gonna believe. But if it's not, or if I have an exit, whatever, I'm just building, I'm looking for stories. Personally, for me, I'm just looking for stories. It sounds like you're looking for human connection, people, but also some of, those are stories, for me too. And just conversations like this, I think, is what really matters. And so I think is a rich space to be doing this because for me, like SMTP and POP are the original APIs. They're right there with FTP as an API, but they're one of the HTTP APIs are pretty ubiquitous, widely adopted, but everybody uses SMTP and POP. Everyone's got an inbox. So as far as how we resist or find our way in this machine in the warehouses, moving forward, I think, I don't think you can use the master's tools to tear down the master's house, but I think we can use email to get messages around and communicate and
Yeah.
and and share knowledge and information. So I think you're on to something interesting, and I think our inboxes and SM2P and POP, and but specifically, I know a lot of people want to do Mastodon, to reinvent Twitter and open protocols and open standards, but you know POP and SMTP is kind of that original decentralized, I mean, not all, it depends on who you have your email account with, but it's
Mm.
still in people's control, in people's hands. So I think you have a pretty good opportunity. And I know you've made can you talk a little bit about the decision you made as far as, how you're going to handle the sending and receiving of emails?
Yeah, agree on that. Like too many things. I want to talk about too many things.
Sorry,
Just
go
trying to put order.
ahead.
Just trying to put order in my head. Um, just before I forget. Um, agree on specifically on that. Like we're trying to reinvent Twitter with Mastodon, with Blue Sky, and all these alternatives, which is amazing. It's good. I love it. I love that it exists. But the decentralized alternatives were already there, or decentralized enough. It's not completely decentralized, but enough, right? To be on to hold the power yourself. Um, with Commune, I'm not, so I gotta clarify, I'm not trying to build on top of that. So I'm actually building on top of vendors, like the vendors that so I'm building on top of REST APIs, basically. Vendors that allow you to send emails and so on, right? And vendors that allow you to receive email as well. Actually, I'm using a tool to receive emails, to have an inbound um, to have an inbox, an inbound stream, and that's for me a way to get notifications,
Mhm.
right? So and that's just that's the way. It's a good. It's actually just an example, but I think it's a good example. So I'm using Kit API. So Kit was previously ConvertKit, and I'm trying to use the API and get all the information I want, but I basically need a webhook. I need a notification when someone is sending a newsletter, a an email, right? But this API doesn't have that capability. It doesn't have this kind. They have webhooks, but not for that specific event. So what I said is like, okay, I'm gonna set up an inbox, an inbound stream, right? With Postmark, which is another product, and I'm gonna add my email address to their subscribers list. So I'll get notified whenever they send the newsletter, right? And that's a notification to me. That's an event, so I can react and then call their API, get all the information I need, and populate commune, right? So I'm not doing anything technologically very innovative, and that's on purpose. I was actually like, I was tired of building for developers. So I was like, I'm gonna build for humans. I'm gonna build for uh, writers, for creators, for people who are, I mean, for developers as well. There are many developers with newsletters, telling stories or teaching you how to do X or Y. So that can also apply, but more on the human side of things and not so much on the technical side of things, right? And um, uh, and yeah, so I don't plan, at least not for now. I don't plan to have to start competing with these email service providers like Kit, like Mailchimp, and so on. There are plenty of those. I don't plan to send emails myself. Instead, what I do is I connect with their APIs and they send the emails and they take care of that, right?
Mhm.
So, so yeah, I'm just like adding the social layer on top of your newsletter so people can uh, like, comment, your newsletter issues and so on, share with other people. They can find you because they already follow a similar newsletter. So I can give you a recommendation that, or you can search for similar newsletters and so on. And here I am pitching Commune now. I said I wasn't going to pitch it. So so yeah. So that's basically what Commune is, what I'm building and so on.
Mhm.
And I agree, like this, sometimes we don't have to reinvent the
Yeah.
wheel. The technologies are just there, but humans are more complex than we tend to believe, as included, of course. Uh, Especially yes, I would say. So yeah, and something that caught my attention that you said is like the tech world behaves in this extractive way that, um, I don't think it's tech. I think it's capitalism, right? Because I see it everywhere around me here in my hometown. People working on cafes, on cleaning places, cleaning the streets, and so on. Like everywhere, everyone is being demanded to do more and more and more and more for the same or for less. Um, like in the name of being a good worker, being a good professional for the cause, whatever the cause means for them, right? But every place, I know tech is really good at that, at the story, at telling stories and making it super, oh, whoa, super pompous, I will say. But yeah, but it's everywhere. Like we're getting lots of streamers, YouTubers, and you know, um, and influencers telling people outside tech, telling them that you're not living better. You don't have a better life because you don't work enough, because you don't because you don't wake up at 5 a.m. and do four push-ups and four burpees and take a cold shower and and then run 2 kilometers. Um, so and you don't invest your money, right? Yeah, even if it's a little bit of money, it compounds, compound interest and blah 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 and so on, blah 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 blah. You're not richer because you're stupid, basically.
And crypto, you got to get into crypto, man.
Exactly, crypto, yeah, whatever. So it's everywhere. Again, like it's everywhere thanks to, or let's say thanks to tech, because of the streaming platforms, because of social networks and so on. So that's why it's possible to spread that message. But back in time when my parents were kids, There were no social networks. There were no internet, and it's been ingrained in my brain and in their brain that you have to be a really good professional, a really good worker, and it's fine to leave late after your whole day has finished, but it's by no way allowed to come late, to arrive late, right? You should be arriving at the time, or if it's possible, a little bit earlier, right? In the morning. But living, you should never live on the clock. Never. You should be living later, right? Because you are a worker, you are a good worker, and you should be proud of it because um, um, we actually have a saying in Spanish. I don't know if it has something like that in English, but yeah, something like the works will make you proud, right? Should make you proud that you are let's say a useful person, let's say.
Yeah, yeah, it gives
Something
you
like that.
purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, so it's everywhere. It's been everywhere because of capitalism. It's just augmented because of tech and the power of tech, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
not just. It's
And that's what back to my warehouse analogy is what I want people to help understand is these warehouses, or I think another good way of seeing them is data centers. I think data centers is another way of visualizing this. These warehouses I'm talking about, they're being constructed around us and around the maids and the housekeepers and the street sweepers and the cafes. Like the small cafe on the street can't do what they do without Google Maps now and without the point of sale system. Like the warehouse has been set up around them. And I think a lot of people growing up, young people, don't realize that they're being influenced. They think that's just the world and that's the way it is. And so back to commune is the inbox is one of the few places we still have a lot of control. That platform hasn't built these warehouses around us. And my wife has a successful newsletter and it ran on Substack. And she's not a technical person, but she knew enough to know that once it became a Nazi bar, that she was able to leave. And because her subscribers, her followers, her success was email based, she was able to move to Ghost and set it up and maintain her audience and and so email gives you a lot of control and power, even though the way you're using it, you're using other third-party services and they're doing, I get that, but just email as a unit of this platformification, this financialization of our world, these warehouses being built around us. It's one of the few last places we still have that's ubiquitous, everyone uses, and people still have control. So I think commune matters in that way.
yeah. I absolutely agree there. Like, actually, that's why I'm building it, right? What am I going to say? But um, another reason I was like building commune outside, let's say, the usual thing that I say that it's a Substack, headless Substack alternative. So you are, let's say, free to leave whenever you want and use your platform of choice and so on. Outside of that, um, is that social networks are full of noise. It's overwhelming. Like you spend a lot of time doom scrolling, trying to find the needle in the haystack, right? But and it's well known that this is on purpose. So they could be only showing you things that matter to you, but they don't do it on purpose. It's a trick. It's a way to trick your brain. It's like slot machines, like they
Yeah.
you try and try and try and try, and then you actually get the spike when you get the price, right? What was the name of it? I don't remember. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that I'm trying to build a place where there's more silence than noise, right? So I don't want people to be getting into commune every day. it's not really worth it. Like you should not be getting into um into a social network every day, not even commune. I mean, or at least not many times a day, right? So what I'm building is just like that's why I'm building it in a way that only those who have a newsletter are able to publish, right?
Hmm.
You cannot post if you don't have a newsletter.
Hmm.
Why would you, right? Like
Yeah.
if you don't have a publication, you cannot post basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can just reply and like and interact with other content. Sure, you can post comments, but you cannot post things that will other people will consume, right? Why? Because those who are running a newsletter usually are aware that they cannot be posting anything that's let's say that's not let's say worked on. That's something that is not well crafted, a well crafted piece. They're not they as an example, like in social networks, it's easy to see people like, look at my coffee that I just took today. Look at me, whatever, right? Let's get rid of
Yeah.
all of that. You get rid of all of that, right? Or whatever thought that comes to your mind. But those who are making or trying to make a living out of a newsletter and have a subscriber base, they cannot be spamming their subscriber base
Hmm.
uh, on a daily base or multiple times a day with irrelevant content because then they will lose their subscribers,
Hmm.
basically, because you're getting into their inboxes as well, right? So you will be spamming them. Um, so that's the thing. Like these people will take more care about what they publish about than others who are just there for fun, for sharing pictures, for sharing quick thought or insult or whatever is the latest trend
Yeah.
in the world
Yeah.
and whatever. So you eliminate all this. Let's say you eliminate all this noise. You want
Okay.
to start posting, start a newsletter.